Hi everybody, it's Kim from Fleece and Harmony, and this is episode 101 of the Fleece and Harmony Knitting and Crochet podcast. We're recording on July 19th, and we're recording in the yarn shop that's in the woolen mill that's on the sheep farm in Belfast, PEI. So welcome to everybody. If you're new to the podcast, a big welcome to you. If you've been joining us for all of these 100 episodes before now, then welcome back, and I'm glad to see you here. And I just want to take a quick minute to thank everybody for their congratulations on making it to episode 100. I received so many great comments from you all congratulating, and it was really fun to read them all. And there's quite a few of you that have seen every podcast that was published. So bravo for you. That's a lot of talking about Fleece and Harmony. So thank you very much for sticking with us all of this time. And I'll just do it now because I always forget to do it at the end. If you enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe, as that really helps us to keep making more episodes. And you can give a thumbs up and turn your notifications on if you want to be notified when we release our podcast, and we do that every second Friday. So welcome to everybody. And today the only way to describe it is that it's stinking hot. So this is not really the normal kind of thing we have this summer, but we're not the only ones. I think there's heat waves everywhere. Luckily, we still have a breeze because we're close to the ocean. And but the humidity was really something, and working in the mill today was a little bit of a nightmare. I think the humidity was at 90 and or higher, and the temperature went up to like 84, and we've had fans going. We don't have air conditioning because you really don't need air conditioning here in PEI most of the time. But it was a little bit crazy. We were all by the end of the day, we were all pretty I don't know. It was tired us out because it was really hot. We were drinking lots of water and trying to keep hydrated, but it was really hot. And when it's not hot, then it's raining. So it's been the last couple of days have been have a lot of humidity. People that are vacationing on the island have had a couple of nice days before that, though. So lots of beach weather. I had to go into town, which if you're a regular viewer, you know town means into Charlottetown today. And it's funny because in the midsummer, when all of the tourists are here, if it's a raining day, a day that's raining, then Charlottetown, it's a shopping day in Charlottetown. And it was crazy, the traffic that was there. So everybody that was vacationing on the island, I think, went to Charlottetown today, and I just had to run what I thought would be a quick errand, but no parking anywhere, traffic everywhere, and it was a bit nuts. So I was glad to get back to the farm and just back to where the peace and quiet. Can't really hear much other than the flies buzzing and the birds singing. So there's not really much to say except for the weather on the farm update. All the sheep are great, and they're still eating like crazy everywhere. And the one thing is that when you have rain and then sunshine, you have the grass growing like crazy, which is really good for farmers everywhere. And people will be getting second cuts of hay. So there's a first cut and a second cut. And for people that don't know what that means, it just means what it sounds like. So the first cut is the one that's early in the summer, and then they wait for the grass to grow up. I think they cut it probably when it's about 12 inches high or so, or maybe a little bit more. And then that's the second cut. And when they do the first cut, they take off all of the seed heads that would be in the different grasses and stuff. So that's one type of quality of hay. And then the second cut tends to be is more leafy because the plants are not putting out the seed heads, so it's more leafy. And it's a different type of hay. The hay plants are the same, but they're at a different stage of growth. So some people like to feed certain animals first cut, and then some people wait for the second cut and they feed those to their animals. So that's kind of your farmer inside scoop for today. And so that's that. Poor Clyde, the barn cat, is actually, we have a house guest that we've had for, it's been about a week now. And so he's with us for another week and a half. And it's Betsy's dog, Scout, who is really, really cute. He looks exactly like a border collie, but his legs are only about this long. And he's a mixed breed. And I think he's got Corgi and Shih Tzu and Jack Russell or something, I'm not sure. He's just a real Heinz 57, and he's really, really cute. But the cat and him, I think you would want to make friends with Clyde, but Clyde's not having anything to do with that. So she heads out to the barn the minute if he's in the house. At night, he sleeps in a kennel, so that's convenient. We let the cat in, and then she can roam around wherever she wants. But during the day, she's been outside as well, and we were putting her out at night. Normally that would be her normal routine. She likes to go out at night, but now that she's out during the day, because Scout's in the house during the day, then she comes in at night, and he's in his kennel. So they're literally ships that pass in the night. They never see each other really, and I think that's the way the cat likes it. She's not so, there's a saying here, what's the saying? Something about what's similar about guests and fish, and that's 3 days and they both start to smell bad. I don't know, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I might have to write it in a ticker down underneath if I get the real expression. But that's the way Clyde feels about Scout, I think. But we really like Scout because he's really cute and funny. So, but the cat not so much. So I just heard speaking of sayings, I heard another saying that I went to this little MacPhail's homestead, which is a little kind of like a local museum-y kind of thing. It's a restored home of Sir Andrew MacPhail, and he had his vacation home here. He was born on PEI, but he then was quite a prominent Canadian citizen in Quebec because he was involved with McGill University, and he's actually Sir Andrew MacPhail, so he was knighted, but he had his summer home here. And now that's I think it's owned by the province, but it might be owned by there's an association that runs it. There's a group of people, like a nonprofit group, that run it for the Sir Andrew MacPhail Homestead, it's called. And they do a series of lectures every summer. And if you're coming to visit on Sundays, every Sunday during the summer till the end of August, they have a lecture, and they have a little dining room there. So, which was the main dining hall, I think, of the homestead. At least that's what it's used for now. And they do a brunch, which is delicious, and they always have a local speaker speaking. And I attended. I'm every second Sunday. I'm not in the shop. Ken and I alternate in the shop on Sundays, and so I attend those lectures. And the first one, I didn't think it was going to be that interesting, but it was about the history of tourism on PEI, and it was actually really, really interesting. And the speaker was Dr. Ed McDonald, who's a professor at the University of Prince Edward Island. He was enthralling and charming and absolutely hilarious as giving the talk. So it was really, really fun. But he said there was a saying, because so many people back in the early 1900s or probably even the late 1800s that lived here, they would move away to go to find jobs sometimes. So there's lots of Prince Edward Islanders, or their family was originally from Prince Edward Island, that live along the eastern seaboard of the U.S., or they went to the west, and they all come home for the summer. And even still, that's what happens. A lot of them come home for summer. And anyway, Dr. McDonald said that there's a saying where, everybody comes home for summer in their old shirts and then go home with all our good strawberry jam. So So that's a saying that I had never heard of before, but it's things that it was a kind of a local thing, which I thought was hilarious because it is true. They come in all their country clothes, I guess, and back like we're talking like in the 50s and 60s when it was mostly expats that were coming back home. They would come in their clothes that were good for being around on the farms and stuff like that. And then if they come in the first 2 weeks of July, it's strawberry season here, and they all went home with strawberry something, and jam was the most transportable. So I guess that was it. So that everybody in the room laughed because it's was kind of something that I wouldn't have thought of or that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but is absolutely true and funny. So that was really good. So if you're here visiting the island in the summer, then you should check that out. So I'll put a link in the show notes. It's the MacPhail Homestead, and it's a lecture series. You do have to call and reserve, especially as it gets busier, but there's always something interesting, and it's about something about local PEI, either history or literature. There's a lot of authors that have written books that give talks at that series, and it's really, really great. So I think that's it for the farm update and the local PEI update. So I'm going to go to works in progress right now. And I usually say whips and rips, but there hasn't been any rips for a while, which is great. So it's just going to be work in progress. But first, I have a confession to make. So I think I've hit the wall with my projects. So what's happening now is that I'm trying to work on the Wallflowers project, which I'll talk about later. And I have 3 major sweater projects on the go at the same time. So I have the cowl cardigan, I have the tungsten sweater, those are both Rowan projects, and I have the paisley cardigan, which I need to finish. And what's happening now is that I have absolutely no time to do much knitting. And the time that I do have, I'm trying to do the wallflowers as much as possible. It's actually really good for summer because the pieces are small, and when it gets really hot, it's really easy just to whip off a few of those pieces. So I'm tending to do that and not getting much knitting done on my heavier sweaters. So I have decided to give myself a break. And people that are watching saying, oh my goodness, it takes her so long to knit a sweater. Why does she need a break? But what's actually happening is now I keep thinking in the back of my head that I have these 3 sweaters that I want to show on the podcast, and I have to make enough progress so that you'll be able to see something that's different than what I was showing 2 weeks ago. And I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't keep up. I'm super, super busy right now because I'm also on the organizing committee for the Fibre Festival, and we're trying to get our own stuff made in the mill. And by the time I get home at night from the mill, I'm literally just about I'm reached my bandwidth by the end of the day, which I'm not looking for sympathy, boo hoo hoo, but the fact is I can't concentrate on 3 projects and get enough knit to be able to show you progress in each of the podcasts. So as of yesterday, what I've decided to do, and I'll just be completely upfront about it, I'm going to work on one of the knit projects, and I'm just going to work on that. And I'm going to do what I can on the wallflowers. I'm not feeling quite as much pressure about the wallflowers because I have Betsy helping me do that. And by the way, Betsy is on vacation this week, so she's missing the podcast. So you've just got me for this one. So Betsy won't make an appearance, but we'll catch up with her when she gets back. She'll be on the next podcast. So the project that I'm going to work on is tungsten because I can make some progress on that. I'm going to show you what I've done this in these last 2 weeks, which is barely nothing because I've done a little bit of this much on my cowl cardigan, and I've done a few little stitches on the paisley. So it's hard to show that anything is getting done. But I just have the back of the sweater with me, because I started the duplicate stitch on the sweater. So if you haven't watched before, this project is called Tungsten. It's from in the Rowan magazine. number 70 actually, and it is intarsia on the argyle, and then the stripes or the lines that make up the rest of the argyle pattern are supposed to be intarsia as well. So that is what I did on the back, and you can see that the stripes are fairly fine right here. And the intarsia was really cumbersome to do. Just with one, you're doing 2 stitches in each round with the for the contrasting stripes. So at the suggestion of viewers, I got smart at the end, and on the front what I did was I didn't try to do this intarsia, these intarsia lines. I just knit the sweater plain, and then I added the intarsia, I added the lines with duplicate stitch, and it was so much easier to knit. It was really a good suggestion, thank you. And but the intarsia lines look different than the ones that are duplicate stitched on the front, because of course the duplicate stitch is double, so it gives it a little bit more prominence, which I really like, by the way. So now I was hoping to avoid this, but now I have to duplicate stitch the lines on the back as well to give it the double thickness. And you can see how it, I think you're going to be able to see the difference. So especially on the where there's the low contrast. So on this side right here, I've done the duplicate stitch on the bottom, and on this side I haven't started it yet. So you can see that the lines are much more prominent and very similar to the ones that are on the front of the sweater that's done. And this one is it's just a weaker impression, and I actually like it when it's more prominent. So I'm just going to finish that duplicate stitch. It goes pretty quickly because it's just sewing, and I don't have to look at the pattern of where to sew it because the lines are already there. And then I'm going to cast on sleeves 2 at a time and try to get some real new progress done on this sweater. So hopefully, and it's knit with felted tweed, so it's fairly light, so it's not heavy knitting for the hot weather either. So that's it. So that's the only thing I'm showing in works in progress, which is, I hope people aren't too disappointed, but that's kind of the way it is for the time being until I get caught up. I get caught up a little bit. So that's that. I'm doing things a little out of order this time because I've tried to arrange the topics that I'm going to talk about in an order that makes sense in light of all the things that I'm going to talk about. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the list of 5 now instead of later in the podcast, which is when I would normally do it. So the list of 5 this week is socks. And I thought that would be really easy because there's literally tens of thousands or maybe 100,000 different sock patterns on Ravelry. But I can tell you that made it more difficult, and it's not that easy to find really good sock patterns that seem to be somewhat unanimous that are great. I searched in Ravelry first by the most popular or with the most projects. And then, as usual, I read all the comments that were written about the patterns that I thought were good to show. And the sock knitters are either, I want to say this diplomatically, there's so many people making sock patterns that maybe don't have access to tech editors or something, I don't know, or avid sock knitters are really particular about the patterns of their socks because it's really hard to get a really high rating on the pattern. And I look at, I try not to go below a 4.7 rating on a pattern because there's always going to be somebody that has a problem with the pattern. If either they're above their skill level or it's just a pattern that they don't like or whatever. So I try to keep the only present patterns that are at a 4.7 or high, which is a pretty high standard. And it's really difficult to find that. And then even when I found it and I read the comments, there were some things like one of the really popular ones she references a chart, but I downloaded the pattern and there's no chart in the pattern. So right away, because I don't have time to knit all 5 pairs of socks before I present it, if she's talking about a chart in the pattern and I download the free pattern and there's no chart, then I can't really trust the rest of the pattern, even though most of the comments were pretty good. People were able to figure it out. So I distilled it down to 5 patterns, and I tried to, the comments had to be really good, the rating had to be really high. I looked at the pattern myself, or I really trusted the designer that designed the socks, because I have a couple of designers that are going to be mentioned in this list that you already know. The first one that I'm going to show, though, is by a designer that I haven't heard of before. And since I'm not really a sock knitter, I've knit a couple pairs of socks, but it's not really my thing. I didn't know about this pattern, but actually more than 36,000 people have made these socks because their projects are on Ravelry. It's the highest number I've ever seen for a pattern. And it's HERMIONE'S Everyday Socks. And the pattern is done by Dreams in Fibre, which is the company, or the design company owned by Erica LATTE. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And over 37,000 people have knit these socks. It's a free download. And of course it was not affiliated, but conjured up Harry Potter, because it's Hermione's socks. And they're really, really cute. So you're seeing them next to me somewhere here. And it's really, I think it's like 12 years old, the pattern. It might have been released in 2007, and it's still on the hot right now list on Ravelry, which is absolutely amazing. So it is a free pattern that you can download, and it is a cuff down sock that is done, or the pattern is written for 2 circular needles, but of course you could use double points if you wanted to. And it's just a kind of plain sock with just this little pearl detail that you can see, which is really, really cute. And the comments were all, with that many projects done, and there was a lot of comments, they were all pretty unanimous that this is a great sock pattern. So, and it's now has been translated into multiple languages that you can download. And I just thought it was kind of fit the bill. It's not that difficult. The difficulty level is really low. Like it's really, it's kind of a, I would say almost a beginner friendly pattern by the looks of it. And it's straightforward, and it's been really, tried and tested. So I think we can count on this one being a good one. So you can check that one out. Number 2 is called Vanilla Latte. So of course, it's part of the vernacular now in knitting, the vanilla sweater, the vanilla sock, and which just means, perfectly plain usually. So I laughed when I saw this, because vanilla latte, because there is just a little bit of a twist to it. So it's a pretty plain sock. It's designed by Virginia Rose Jeans, I think is how you pronounce her, or Jeans. And it is also a free download. And like I said, it's called the Vanilla Latte Sock Pattern. It's also cuff down, and there's 3 sizes, but she says in the description that it's easily adaptable. And again, it's just a nice looking sock. It's not super fancy, but it just has that little bit of interest with those little, it's not really lace, but that little detail that's going vertically up the sock. I just like the look of it, and the comments were overwhelmingly positive about it, and it had a really high rating on Ravelry. And I hadn't heard of this designer before, so I thought that would be a good one to add to the collection. The next one is a brand new pattern. So there was only one project on Ravelry, because literally it was just launched in July, but it's by the Petite Knitter, and I like all of her projects are fantastic. So I took a chance and put it on this list, and it's called OVIS. And it's got the really cute little sheep around the sock, which I really liked, She knits most of her socks with contrasting colors, like she switches the contrast for the right and the left, which is fun. And but what I liked about it is that it was actually knit using kid silk, or not kid silk haze, but a silk mohair yarn stranded with the sock yarn, which means that they're going to be really sweet and fluffy. It sells for $7 Canadian, so that would be less in US funds. It's a cuff down sock, and but I really liked the fact that it has the silk mohair, which almost every pattern she does has silk mohair in it, and it's really great. And it comes in 11 sizes, so all the way from children's to adult. So it's really versatile with the sizes, and it has an afterthought heel. So for people that don't like to turn the heel the traditional way with a gusset, it does have an afterthought heel, and they're just as cute as buttons. So that's the OVIS by the Petite Knitter. The fourth sock was because I was trying to find socks that were also done toe up, because some people prefer to do toe up, and there's not that many. I would have thought that it would have been pretty prominent, because there's been a lot of talk about toe up socks for quite a while now, but there weren't that many patterns, relatively speaking, to the cuff down patterns. So the one that I chose to put on the list is Bubbles Down the Drain by Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits. And this is a toe-up sock, and it has a short row toe and a short row heel. And of course, Stacey is completely reliable for her patterns. She's technically, her patterns are really great. So I felt confident putting this one on as well. And I think it was free, but I didn't write it on my notes, so you'll have to check it out. But anyway, Bubbles Down the Drain is the first toe up sock, and it's really cute with the little detail. It does look like bubbles, so it's a really cute one. And the last sock that I want to talk about is relatively new as well, and the pattern name, this is the pattern name, not the designer, is Elizabeth Carter, and the designer is Kate Davies. So this pattern was first published in the Blue Stockings book, and you can see that they're blue stockings, but you can make them shorter into like regular socks, and Kate says that you could also make them longer and really make them stockings. So this the length that she did, that you see in the picture, it was actually 1 skein per sock because of the length of them. But you can, most sock yarn skeins or balls are around 400 or 450 or maybe up to 500 yards usually, and you can usually get like a mid-calf pair of socks out of 1 skein of sock yarn. And because these are perfectly plain, I think you'd be able to do the same with these socks. So they're toe up with a short row heel, and there's 3 sizes, but they're pretty plain. And if anybody has knit a Kate Davies pattern, you will agree with me that her pattern writing is impeccable. So I'm sure that this pattern can be tested or trusted 100%. And you can either buy the book, Blue Stockings, we sell it here, so if you want to order it from us, you can. Or there's other great patterns there. I think there's 11 patterns, sock patterns in that, and there's a hat pattern at the end, which is kind of a bonus pattern. So you can, but like Kate does, that after her book has been published for so long, then she does release the patterns that you can buy them individually as well. And this is the case with Blue Stockings. So now at this point, her pattern is also, you can buy it on Ravelry, and it's £5. And I didn't do the conversion, but it would be like around $9 or $10 Canadian. And then of course that would be less in US dollars. And like I said, it's toe up, another toe up sock with a short row heel. So that is the list of 5 for this week. And I hope you enjoy checking out those sock patterns. And I just want to say, I'm just going to do a little plug because I hadn't noticed this before on Ravelry, but maybe it's been something that's been there for a long time and I just never noticed it, is that at the top of the page, like when you search for patterns and you click on a pattern and there's different things, the comments, the projects, and there's different things you can click on. One of the options you can click on is yarns, and it's suggested yarns. So what Ravelry is doing is every time somebody posts a project and they name the yarn that they use, you can see all the yarns that people have have used to knit the patterns, and you can see how many people used any particular yarn. And I have to say that of the 5 patterns that I picked, no one has knit them with Fleece and Harmony Point Prim sock yarn. So if anybody knits one of these 5 sock patterns with our sock yarn, it would just be thrilled to be able to see Point Prim sock yarn as a suggested yarn in one of those socks. So if you do use one of these sock patterns, then let me know. Send me a picture of how the socks turned out, and then if you can just mention the yarn in your Ravelry post, if you're posting on Ravelry, that would be great. I would like to see that. So that's it. So that is the list of 5 for this week. So I hope you enjoy that. Now, I am going to talk about the Wallflowers project, and I'm on my own. So I know that Betsy, before she left, she was all caught up with her wallflowers. She mentioned that in the last episode. I'm not caught up, but I did make some progress. So right now, where we were, I'm just going to show this. I added a little bit to this. But now I'm doing production mode because Betsy does production mode, and it is really faster if you're just doing all the same flower and you get them all done. So right now, this is the first 3D flower that we did. So there's 2 of these garlands that are done. But this is the only one that I'm trying to fill out with the new piece that we get every week. So I'll have at least one that I can see how it's all going to hang together. So we had a couple weeks ago, we had to do these small 3D flowers. So I had those done. Whoop, thread. I have them done. I just haven't had them all attached in. So you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 attached there. And those attached in the middle of these smaller flowers. They're called the popcorns, these ones. And then we did another flower motif, which was called Pebbles. And it's this one on the top. And these are done in 3 different colors. So I have these all done. So I have 3 different colors of these. And then the next motif that we do is the large 3D flower, and there's 6 of these. So this is my large 3D flower. I'm just going to show it up close. So it's getting a little bit more complex. And I made a little alteration on the coloring of this flower. So I'm just going to show how this is going to go together. So we have these pebbles in the center. Then I made a pebble that had this blue. I just wanted a tiny little shot of blue in my blanket, even though it's mostly going to be pink with a purpley background. So when I insert this pebble, it is actually going to go, I hope I can show this, right next to this peach pebble, like that. And then I need 3 hands. Then the large flower goes on top of that. So you can see how I use the little touch of blue there, so it'll hang together with that. So I think it's going to turn out okay. But until I really get them in there, I won't know for sure. But this is pretty amazing, I have to say, when you work this. This is why there's not much knitting done, because this is all kind of very addictive, because you've got 3 different types of petals in this flower, and then you see the way that the colors develop. It's really fun. And it's easy to knit in the summer or crochet in the summer, because it's fairly light and it's small pieces. So that's the progress on the wallflower. Not much, except I have a ton of all these other pieces back on my work table that I've been doing. So not a lot to show. I will show a picture of the pile just to give my story credibility, and I'll show that in the pod. I'll show that here. But it is coming together. So the way that these work actually is that you finish the flower, whatever it is, the popcorn or the pebble, and then you do usually 2 rows of work, or 2 rounds of work that are the joins. So then that's how they get filled out with the surround, and it's all done in hexagon shapes. So by the time, I think these large ones actually take 4 rows, but you have to transform this into something that has a hexagon shape on the outside so that it fits in to the hexagons here. And it's kind of cool how that all happens. So anybody that's an avid crocheter is going to say, yeah, that's how you do it. But for somebody that hasn't really done it before, the way that how you get the hexagon from a round piece of work actually is pretty cool, and they all do really fit together as long as you're keeping your tension relatively similar. But I have to say as well, it's pretty forgiving, because I've had a few pieces that I've done that were a little bit smaller. I could see that they were smaller, but when you fit it in with its neighbors and you attach it with crochet, it actually, they do fit. They seem to fit. So if anybody is intrigued by this work, then you probably will want to stay tuned for the Arne Carlos section, which is coming up afterwards as well, because they also do crocheted flowers. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a later section of the podcast. Anyway, this is Wallflowers by Sue Matten, and I see on her website that she has just opened up the registration for the fall class. So if you've been following along with Betsy and I and felt that you have FOMO, fear of missing out, because you didn't join in the spring, then Sue has opened up her registration for the fall session. And I'll continue to give the discount on the felted tweed needed to do the blankets for the next session as well. So if you really feel like you want to join this class, I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really well done, and I'm a new crocheter, and I'm not really having any problems following along, because the instruction is so good. And it's in right-handed crochet and left-handed crochet. So check it out if you think you might be interested. And Sue is accepting the registrations. I think it starts in November. So she's already accepting registrations for that, I think, or at least she started to advertise it. But you can check it out on her website, which is, the link is down below in the show notes. So now I'm going to talk about the special event in November, which is the Arne Carlos visit. So the tickets are on sale. So if you're a newsletter subscriber and you didn't read your newsletter, then you were able to register for some of the classes as of last Friday. So the newsletter people have had a chance to be front of the line. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, that's a good reason to subscribe, because I often show things on the newsletter first, and then I present it on the podcast the next week. So now the general sale for the tickets is available to everybody. So as of today, everybody can order their tickets, and I am putting a link in the show notes to get your tickets. So you can go down in your show notes, and you will be able to find the link. I've created a collection on the website so that you'll see Arne Carlos event, and I think I'm going to try to fit it in the main menu, and you can just scroll down on the main menu and find it. It'll be there temporarily because the menu is quite long now, so I don't want to make it too much longer, but I will do it there. But you can also get the link in the show notes at the bottom of this of the recording in YouTube. And this is how the event is going to play out. I think I talked about this a little bit last time, is that on the 29th of November in the evening, there's going to be a 1-hour session of sit and knit for a bit live. And Arne and Carlos are going to talk about their inspiration, their design work, and their lifestyle. They will take questions. There'll be like a meet and greet afterwards, and they also will do book signing. So if you already have some of their publications, then you can bring a book to the event and they'll sign it for you. And I am going to do a quick rundown of the books that we have from Arne and Carlos in my shop update, which will come after this. The next day, so November 30th, the workshop starts, and the workshops are composed of 3 hours, and there's a project that goes with every workshop, and I'm going to show it here next to me when I'm describing the workshop. So the first workshop that you can attend is knitting and purling the Norwegian way. So they're going to teach you their style of knit and purl. The knit is fairly straightforward, but the purl is quite special, and it's obviously they swear by it as what they do, and it is quite a different technique than the traditional purling that we do in North America or in the UK. So that will be the class, and you'll make a hat. So there'll be a pattern for the hat that's shown. And that is the project for knitting and purling the Norwegian way. In the afternoon, there is going to be the Primrose crochet class. So that's 3 hours, learning how to do the primrose flowers that go into one of the blanket patterns that Arne and Carlos have. So I don't have the times exactly when the classes are going to start and end, because there is going to be, Arne and Carlos actually have to record their regular sit and knit for a bit during the event. So they're going to do that at lunchtime on one of the days. So I just don't have the final times, but it will be, there's morning and afternoon sessions. So the second session is the primrose flower motif. That will take place in the afternoon on November 30th. Then on December 1st, there will be, the next class will be the stranded knitting the Norwegian way, and you'll also have a pattern for that, and it's a Christmas ball, a new Christmas ball, and the pattern is available exclusively for people attending the workshops that Arne and Carlos are doing this season. So you have that pattern that you can knit during the class, and you'll learn to do stranded knitting the same way that Arne and Carlos do. Finally, the last class will be on December 1st in the afternoon, and that one is the layered colorwork technique, and that was featured, I think Arne and Carlos developed that technique, and they did a book using that technique as well. And there is another hat that can be made with this, which you're seeing next to me. And the way that works is they used felted tweed, and then they stranded kid silk haze over the top to get these muted shapes. And I'm not even sure how they do it, so I didn't learn to do it yet. So it'll be interesting to see that class. So those are the four classes, and we have tickets left of all of them. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, then now's the time to get them. I would do it fairly quickly. Some of the classes are almost sold out, but not quite. And the Holman Grand, we're holding it at the Holman Grand Hotel in Charlottetown. I don't have enough room in my shop to host 30 people or to host the lecture. So we are going to go to the Holman Grand Hotel, and they are offering a special rate for people that want to stay at the hotel. The special rate is $149 for a queen room, so 2 queen-size beds. And this is a beautiful hotel. They have a spa in the hotel, and they have a really great restaurant as well in that hotel. and they will give you the special rate. They did a little mini website for us, so when you click on the link that I'm going to share in the show notes, you actually go to the mini site. But you can get the special rate by phoning or visiting their direct online booking link. And the code that you need to use to get the rate is Fleece. So that information will be down in the show notes, and you can check that out. So if you want to stay directly at the hotel, then that's available to you. And there's not a limit on the number. It's not like a block of rooms. It's actually a special rate for this event. So that's the Arne Carlos event. So it's going to be really exciting. Luckily, I already have an Arne Carlos sweater made, because I doubt that I'll have time to knit another sweater by November. But and I have to finish my other projects. But you can think about what kind of sweater you want to knit to wear to the Arne Carlos event. So I hope to see a lot of you there. It's going to be really, really great. And if you're not a viewer of Arne Carlos podcast, they're just really lovely and charming. I did have some interaction with them when we did the video Zoom event that we did. I think it was in 2020. And they're just as lovely in person as they seem on their podcast. So I hope that you're able to come and it's the only event that they're doing in Canada. So we're pretty excited about it. All right. So in the shop update, I am going to feature all of the books that we have by Arne Carlos. We also carry Arne Carlos Norwegian wool, which is a Rowan yarn that they developed and designed with Rowan. And we have that wool. I have all of the colors that they make. There will be a couple new colors coming out in September for the fall program from Rowan as well. And most of the classes are using the Norwegian wool, of course, because why not? That's the yarn that they helped design. And there's suggestions, like when you go into the description of the ticket for the class, it will tell you what the yarn requirements are for the project that they're going to teach. So, and you can buy all of those yarns from Fleece and Harmony. And we have lots of books. So they're going to do a book signing on the night of the lecture on November 29th. So I thought I would do a quick rundown of the books that we carry. I think I carry every book that's available to me and published for distribution in Canada. So the first one, and probably the most popular one, that just celebrated its 10-year anniversary 2 years ago. So I guess it's 12 years now, but it's just as good as it was when it was fresh off the press, hot off the press. So this is the 55 Christmas Balls to Knit, Arne Carlos. This is a soft cover book, and you have obviously 55 patterns to knit for Christmas balls. You'll get a new pattern and in the class if you sign up for the Stranded Knitting class. My favorite Arne Carlos book, though, is the Birds of a Feather. This is a hardcover book, and we've showed this book before. It is just lovely, and I always get the biggest kick out of the centerfold. I'm going to show you. That's in the front of the book. That has all of the bird patterns that you can knit with this book. And there's a little fold out on the back as well, which is the template for all of the patterns. There's some nice pictures of Arne Carlos, and you have the template. I won't show all of it, but you have the template for the patterns in the. So that's it in the back. So check out the front cover and the back cover, and inside you just have these really great pictures, and obviously they have the birds are lots of variety and really fun. So it's just so cute. This book is really cute and really popular as well. So we have that in stock. Then I'll show the ones that they did for Rowan after. The next one is make your own idea book. So in one of their episodes, Arne talked about making his idea book. So he has books that he's made from scratch, and they're like books with leaves and pages and everything. And that's where he keeps his inspirations and things like that. So I carry that book as well. So you can make one of your own, and you can check out their podcast that they did on that. And finally, I have the Arne Carlos favorite designs. So this is a whole collection of different designs. You get a smattering of a lot of the things that they make. So there's little critters, there's sweaters, there's scarves, there's socks, a whole thing. And again, it's just beautiful. Like the design of the no centerfold in this one though. This is there they are with their socks on. So you have socks. Like I said, there's just a thing, and I think actually that might be the primrose blanket in behind them right there. So really cute. And they've got a couple dolls, and they have a little dog sweater for Freya. So it's just a really eclectic collection of different things. And when the tickets went on sale right away for the newsletter people, this book sold out right away. But I have lots of copies coming, so it will be back in stock. So if you're interested in something a little bit different, this is a great book. Then they did a series of books for Rowan, and there was 3 books that they did called New Nordic. And the first one was the women's collection. So this one is just called New Nordic, and it was a collection of books with women's designs in it. And they're just doing a variety of things. Hats and sweaters and a couple, I'll put some pictures next to me, mittens. And all of these books, 3 books in these series are like that. Here's a full jacket. And so there's lots of great designs in this. So this was the first one, and it's just called New Nordic. Then they did a men's book. And this one is called New Nordic Men's Collection. And I believe this is the book where they first showed the layered knitting. And I'm going to just find a picture of that so you can see the technique. So this sweater. So the orange motif that you see on top of the sweater is the layered part. The technique. And the pattern, you'll see a picture of the pattern in the when you look at the workshop ticket for layered, or a description on the website, is the hat is kind of like in this style actually that you make. So obviously it has to be a smaller project if you're going to get a good start on it in the class. But look, there's some really nice men's sweaters. I didn't pick any of these men's sweaters for my sweater top 5 that I did. I should have looked in here maybe. He's using mostly felted tweed and kid silk haze, I think. I'm just going to check the yarns. Kid silk haze and alpaca softy K actually. So and felted tweed. So that's New Nordic Men's Collection. And then finally, I guess it's been 2 years now, they did New Nordic Unisex in this book. And these, all of these projects can be worn by men and women. And so there's Rain. So for people that have been following me, you know that that's my sweater that I knit from this book. I believe that this is the layered technique as well in this sweater. And there's a variety of projects in here too, and they're all can be worn by men and women, both. So that's New Nordic unisex. All right, so, and those, as far as I know, those are the books that Arne and Carlos have made available in Canada, and I have them all. And then I also have just reordered Knit Like a Norwegian. Knit Like a Norwegian is a group of designers, but Arne and Carlos do have a design in that book as well. And I'm just waiting for that to come back in stock because I'm sold out right now, but I will have that. So that's not really, it's not an Arne and Carlos book per se, because they're just one of a group of Norwegian designers that contributed to that book, but I will have that back in stock too. Okay, so that is the shop update, all about Arne and Carlos. So I hope that you'll find something there, some inspiration for if you're going to knit a sweater or a project to wear to the workshop in November. I will say one more thing about that event, is that it is at the end of November. PEI is not known to be a place to visit at the end of November. It's kind of an odd time of the year. We don't usually have snow by November. We often don't have snow even at Christmas time, but it is cool, and there might be rain, but it just depends. It also can be very beautiful and still fairly warm. There is a little bit of a rumor going around that there's not much to do in PEI during that time of the year. And then once the traditional vacation season is over, that everything closes up. So that is sort of true in some of the real resort areas like Cavendish and that kind of place, because they're really it's a beach destination. So of course they're not at full capacity. But in the case of Charlottetown, the city, there are like tons of restaurants that are open, and they all stay open like a regular city. So there's lots, we have a really big culinary tradition here, as I've talked about before. So there's lots of restaurants to visit. There's the Confed Center. There's other activities, like there's live music. We have quite a lot of live music downtown in Charlottetown. Different venues, like there's the Trail Side, which has live music every week, and we have our fair share of pubs that also have live music, and there's lots of things to see there. And the other thing is that PEI has some really, really beautiful trails to walk. So we have the Confederation Trail. If you're not from Canada, the Confederation Trail is a trail when they took out rail lines in different provinces of Canada. So PEI doesn't have any train service anymore, but they converted all of those rail beds into a beautiful trail that you can bike and walk on, and they're all over the island. So if you like nature and you want to do some walking, I wouldn't really call it hiking, because it's pretty, it was for the trains to go on, so it's pretty flat. And there is also the, I forget the actual Island Walk, And the Island Walk is a walk that's done all the way around the island. We've had a couple people in the shop that were here doing it, actually. I think it's like 300 kilometers or 343 kilometers, but it's divided up into sections so that you can do different parts of the walk. So that might be something that you might want to do if you wanted to extend your stay. And I believe that the hotel is offering the special rate for 2 days in advance of the event, and I think maybe 2 days after, but you'd have to check that out and see, so that you could extend your stay with that preferential rate if you wanted to take in some of those things. And we have provincial parks that are also open that have walking trails, like Strathgartney, in the Strathgartney area in the that part of the island. They have a pretty popular place for walking and stuff there as well. So there's nature to be had. There's arts. There's plays and live music, and definitely lots of great restaurants. So there are some things. You're not going to be bored anyway if you want to come and join us and you want to do other things. And you can still access the beaches. You just can't get in your bathing suit and go swimming in November. But Ken and I often we rarely get to go to the beach in the summer during beach season, but we often walk along the beach during the other parts of the year, and it's just lovely. And it's there's lots of wide sand beaches, so even if you go on a stormy day, it can be pretty magnificent actually. Just don't go close to the big waves if it's on a stormy day. So I think that's all about Arne Carlos. I'm almost to the end of this podcast. It's the solo podcast. I will talk about the Fibre Festival update. So what I've decided to do is, last time I talked about the Fibre Fan Lounge and who was going to be attending there. So this time I'm going to talk about some of the lectures that are going to be had. So I didn't talk about this in the shop update, but it's relevant now, is that the saltwater mittens girls, Shirley Scott and Christine LeGros, are giving 2 lectures or 2 presentations at the Fibre Festival. And the first one is on September 23rd, and that lecture it's actually called How Did It All Happen? So it's about how they ended up writing these books, this series of books. And so they have the saltwater mittens, started it all. Then they had the saltwater classics, and then they had saltwater gifts, and now they're going to have saltwater socks. I think this is their first appearance after the launch of the saltwater socks book, but I may be wrong about that. They may be having a lecture somewhere else before that. But around the 1st of September, then the saltwater sock book will be launched, and right in time for the festival. So Shirley and Christine will be presenting, and there's the September 23rd is, like I said, How Did It All Happen? So kind of their genesis story. And then on September 24th, they're going to talk about how you can customize or change up your saltwater knits. So if you've got any of the books and you have things that you think, well, it would be great to have like some variety in the patterns, certain patterns, they're going to tell you easy ways that you can reinvigorate your patterns. And if you've knit multiple projects in the patterns in the book, then you'll be able to hear how you can do some changes to the patterns to adapt them to different things. So those 2 lectures are available. There's still tickets left for both of those lectures, so you might want to check that out on the PEI Fibre Festival website. And I can tell you, because I've met them in person, is that they are just lovely and charming and funny. And if you've read their books, it's just really, there's no pretense. It's exactly what they're like, and they just have a really great sense of humor and very down to earth and just lovely. So a great chance to meet Shirley and Christine. So now we're going to go to the harmony part. And in my last newsletter, I talked about the linden tree that grows in the front of our house. There's a huge linden tree that I think was planted just about the same time that the house was built. So sometime way more than 100 years ago. It's huge. And if you're not familiar with linden trees, they are huge shade trees, and they have these little tiny, insignificant looking blossoms on them. But the smell that comes from those blossoms is just unreal. It's really beautiful. It perfumes the whole yard and is just really lovely. And the bees love it. So they're really attracted to the linden trees, and the tree, while the blossoms are on the tree, is actually buzzing, and we captured that on the Harmony moment. So I will, as always, pick a piece of music, but I will dampen the music so that you can hear the bees at some point. So you're just going to see pictures of the tree, and not too exciting. It'll just be relaxing, but you'll be able to hear the bees working away, and of course they make honey, which will be a special kind of flavor to the honey that comes from the linden blossoms. So I hope you enjoy the Harmony part. I hope you have a safe and joyous 2 weeks, and enjoy the Harmony part, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.